All right. The other approach, the non-orthodox, a lot of people are now calling it the heterodox approach. My colleague Fred Lee played a role in pushing that terminology. In a way, it sounds better to say heterodox than non-orthodox, because non-orthodox, you're defining yourself as not being orthodox, which doesn't say a whole lot. It is the Keynesian institutionalist, but also I would say the Marxist approach. I'll be talking more about Keynesian institutionalists because Minsky was a Keynesian institutionalist. Okay? Here, the view is that there actually is no natural human nature. Human nature is shaped by institutions and by culture. In other words, our nature is developed. There's nothing natural about it. And it will be different depending on which society you're looking at. There's nothing natural about selfishness. Selfishness is created, okay, by society. Some societies favor selfishness. And so when you live in a capitalist economy, it seems pretty obvious that people are fairly selfish. But there's nothing natural about that at all. It is reinforced by the kinds of institutions we have in capitalism. All right? So behavior is largely socially determined, and the culture of the society in which you live matters a lot. So there is no universal human nature. If you look at tribal society, people behave very differently than they do in a capitalist society. Many or most decisions are not rational in the neoclassical sense. Okay? They are not individuals maximizing their own self-interest. There are two reasons for that. One is that humans actually are social creatures. They actually do care about other individuals, both in a good sense and in a bad sense. Okay, in a good sense, they want to help others, but also in a bad sense, they want to hurt others. Okay, and they get pleasure from that. Kenneth Boulding, who's a very famous institutionalist economist, used to say, you know, the neoclassical theory, it's so naive, but in a way it's beautiful. Nobody wants to hurt anybody else. He says, you know, you couldn't possibly conceive of a theory of humans that could be so far wrong. Okay? So both in the good sense, they want to help others, but in the bad sense, they actually get enjoyment from inflicting pain on other people. That's not allowed in the neoclassical model. But the second reason why they can't be rational in the neoclassical sense is that the future is truly uncertain. You don't know. Okay? We could say that you sort of know the present, and you have some idea about the past, but even the past is uncertain. But you have a great deal of uncertainty about the future. You cannot know the future because it's yet to be created. It's impossible to know the future. Okay? Literally impossible. Now, you can make predictions, you have expectations about the future, but it is truly uncertain. And then finally, power, discrimination, prejudice, segregation, all these things really matter. And this gets back to the humans actually enjoy hurting others, rising above others, dominating others, and those things really matter. And if you exclude all of these things from your analysis, which neoclassical theory does, you miss a lot about the economy. Power matters. Orthodoxy starts with the assumption of perfect competition. So many buyers, so many sellers, nobody can influence the market. In the real world, that doesn't describe virtually any market. Okay? In the real world, power matters. And finally, our definition of economics, completely different. So I've highlighted two important differences. It's the study of the social creation and social distribution of society's resources. Okay? Social creation, so resources don't just exist. You don't inherit them at your birth. They aren't given like manna from heaven. They're socially created. Okay? They're created, but the creation is mostly social. Yes, you can individually produce some things, but that describes almost nothing of modern society, or even in tribal society. Virtually everything is socially created. You work together in groups, but even more than that, the knowledge is socially created. Okay? It's almost impossible to conceive of production being individually undertaken. Okay, and second, the distribution is socially determined. It's not determined by markets. It's not determined by an invisible hand. It is not determined by your contribution to production. It's not the marginal productivity that you contributed. It's socially determined. Okay? By what? Well, by power, discrimination, prejudice. All of those things matter. Okay? Why is it that in capitalist economies we observe that men earn more than women? Are they more productive? No. This is socially determined. Okay? Yep.
I haven't understood the meaning of social into the definition. You can repeat, please.
Well, individual production would be undertaken by an individual who created his or her own knowledge. Okay? It wasn't inherited from society. It wasn't as a result of social education and training. They came up with the ideas completely on their own, and they're able to produce something on their own. That describes almost nothing. Social creation means that you grew up in a society where you were educated, trained, socialized, we use that term, right? What is parenting? It's socializing these little creatures. Okay. In what sense are we socializing them? We're socializing them so that they fit into the society they're born into. Okay. That's socialization. And then finally, the production is undertaken socially. Okay. If you go to a modern office, if you're a white-collar worker, or a modern factory where you're a blue-collar worker, you're working in teams. And if you did not cooperate with others, work together, you would produce nothing. It requires working together to produce. Okay? And almost always under some kind of a management that allocates tasks to individuals, each one producing just a tiny part of the task. Okay? Adam Smith's pen factory is a 200-year-old example of the social process of producing pens.